Okay, I think we're good to go. So I'll be pausing and unpausing the video as he drops bombs, and I'm going to be working on my game otherwise. So let's fucking go.
Maybe you're wondering, why is he wearing that cool hat?
It's because the tech overlords are listening.
Now I can finally say, Google.
It's because the tech
Google. What do you get? Now I can finally say, Google schmoogle. What are you gonna do, Google? You're completely powerless now. What's that? Google owns YouTube? I would Google that, but I literally can't. What are they gonna do? Censor this video? Demonetize it? Bury it under the algorithm so no one can find it? You're completely powerless, Google. You got nothing on me. So the past couple of weeks, I've completely de-Googled. I don't use any of Google's so-called free services, except YouTube. I literally can't escape. It's surprisingly hot to wear a tinfoil hat. I don't know if you guys knew this. Well, you never worn a tinfoil hat before? Now, this all started because of privacy concerns. Being tracked with it, literally everything I do just feels kind of odd. Mainly because I wanted to also regain control over my software. And
it almost starts like a VPN advertisement. Like every motherfucker out there trying to sell you a VPN is all about my privacy online, my international Netflix, you know, so on and so forth. And these are all pretty good reasons, but at the same time, wouldn't it just be like really cool if you could do that yourself without having to pay a company? And I hope that's the direction that he's going in.
And not to be at mercy of what the tech overlords decide to do just one day. But most importantly, I don't want to pay $20 a year for 100 gigabyte storage. Not happening. I realized since swapping to Linux, my life has just been going upwards. I'm practically ascending next step. But I realized...
That's fucking right. If you know how to program, you know how to use a computer, you know how to put shit together, you know how to figure out and solve problems. I was debugging fucking NVIDIA driver issues on Gen 2 in 2006. So almost 20 years ago. I've been on Linux a fucking long time. So I'm really curious, as someone who is, you know, at least I've been aware of Pewdiepie ever since the South Park episode. As someone who's been aware of his existence, and, you know, I don't care if I get as famous as Pewdiepie. I don't care if I'm ever blow up that big. Like, that was never the goal. I'd like to be able to just kind of live a normal existence and do my day-to-day routine as I do. And if that leads to any sort of notoriety, then that's fucking cool. But notoriety itself not being the goal, like freedom being the goal. And one of the things that Linux is really good at is liberating you from the matrix.
I realize there's always an open source alternative, and a lot of times they're better. They just don't have $1 billion budget to market themselves. So I went down the de-Google rabbit hole, and I want to share what I learned, because by the end of this, once you know what I know, bro, you're gonna want one of these cool hats as well. So let's go through the de-Googleization. I want to be honest and share what I think you should absolutely change, and maybe what was more hassle than worth. Number 1, your search engine. Change your search engine right now. You can do it now while I keep yapping. Just go to your browser settings, find the search default browser, and change it to DuckDuckGo.
So this is the first thing that actually prompted me to want to do reaction. Was I'm very interested to see that people are still pointing to DuckDuckGo as a browser like solution for privacy, because correct me if I'm wrong, but fucking who's that one dude? Correct me if I'm wrong, but let's see. Here we are. Yeah, I knew I remember this shit correctly. So DuckDuckGo isn't as private as you think. Due to a search agreement with Microsoft, DuckDuckGo, which uses Bing as the backend, actually does a bunch of stuff that ends up leaking information that can still be used in tracking things that you do online. So this was back in 2022. And like it's, you know, it's one thing to, you know, like you're probably getting tracked less with DuckDuckGo, but you know, it's also an important thing to be aware that there are multiple different solutions to this problem. Yandex, for instance, is a very interesting system out of fucking Russia. I think they're Russia, right? Like the yandex.ru. One thing that kind of drew me to Yandex to begin with was their translate service is like really clean. It's so like it feels good to use in comparison to like Google Translate. And I just thought that it's interesting that he's pushing DuckDuckGo when there's you know, potentially privacy issues and concerns in that department.
It's a search engine that doesn't track what you do, it just works. Boom. Maybe you prefer everything you do online to be tracked and logged. I don't know, maybe you're in that ballpark. I think just most people are either oblivious or lazy. So I'm telling you now, don't be lazy. Number 2, your browser. When I told you to change your default search engine,
I mean, one of the things that I kind of appreciate, or have always appreciated, about the fact that Google does keep track of your searches is that it makes researching for things, as in repeating a previous search, pretty easy and straightforward. Without any sort of like user tracking capability, there would be no real way to like optimize the ability to like figure out what you might be looking for, which there's pros and cons to that, right? On one hand, you kind of have to create a footprint or like a user profile that like can be kind of like matched to you and your preferences. And this can be used against you for sure, because if someone has access to that information, then they can more easily kind of like not only figure out who you are, but also figure out how to sell things to you. Advertisers are notorious for doing this. There was a great case of a woman who didn't know she was pregnant, but they were able to figure out like that she was pregnant. They began showing advertisements on their streams that would indicate that she was in that department, and then eventually she got a thing in the physical mail that actually suggested that she might have been pregnant, and I think she was. And that's kind of scary that level of detail can be harvested and predicted, right? Like, it's definitely a thing to think about. Is it going to dramatically change how your life is experienced? I don't know. Only time will tell after you have completely detethered from the system, and detethering is going to be very hard for a lot of people because we are all very reliant and dependent upon many systems that have been created.
search engine, you did not just do that inside of Google Chrome, did you? Say it ain't so. There are way better browsers out there. I use Firefox. It's kind of B tier, but you can lock it down into...
Firefox too got into hot controversy. Man. 3 months ago. Recent changes to Firefox's terms of use and service have sparked privacy concerns regarding data collection and potential AI training. While Mozilla maintains that these changes are necessary for basic browser functionality, it became a really big story, I remember, because it was posted all over the internet that they straight up changed their terms and service, clauses. Thanks, Medium, for March 4th, ZDNet. With Mozilla's recent data and privacy waffling, Firefox users need to be cautious. So, if you don't want to go PewDiePie's route of Firefox, you're gonna probably have a good time with Brave. Brave, for one, has privacy shields built into the browser itself, not requiring any sort of other extension. It also has pretty good built-in script blocking, so no need for like uBlock origin anymore or anything like that. But he has a tier list here, which is kind of interesting. One thing that's really important to note, that the primary differences between browsers like Chrome, Edge, Brave, and Firefox. So if Firefox is its own class because of the way that the system works underneath the hood, whereas all of the other engines are a open source fork of Google Chrome called Chromium, which Chrome itself is built on top of. So if you want to go like open source, and you still want to like get the benefit of a lot of Google's, features and ways of doing things, you might have a good time with Chromium itself, which he lists at the fucking bottom because this motherfucker did not do his goddamn research properly. If this is an image that he made, this is sad to see that he put Chromium in the fucking bottom. Ungoogled Chromium, you say not ideal for a normal human. I've never even seen half of these images on here, but like, I don't know what to make of this. Like, hardened Firefox he lists up here. I'm not even sure what he means by that, but he definitely puts Brave up at the top, which I'm already using. So I guess we're already in the goat here. But I've also bounced back and forth between Chrome, Firefox, and Brave over the years, and it's pretty easy to switch between them nowadays. A lot of them allow you to import your bookmarks and settings and cookies and whatnot from other browsers like instantaneously. So there's very little reason not to like switch, or at least try other browsers at this point. You can have a good time, you can learn something new, and you might even find a better way of doing something.
To S tier. A lot of people swear by Brave browser. I never tried it. My point is, this is super easy to change. And have you ever thought why browsers are free to begin with? Why is Microsoft why do they want you to use their browser so goddamn badly, Why do they all make it free for you? Could it be because they track everything you do online and sell or trade your data? What?
No. This is a very silly take. We have to really think about why browsers are free, and in order to do that, we have to think about the history of the internet. You have to think about the fact that there was a time when the internet was ran over phone lines, and even before that, the internet was even much slower on older systems. Like, I was very lucky that my first internet experience was on 56K dial-up, which some people had half of that speed. Some people even began before that, and you're already paying a phone company for telephone usage, right? And so, like, for instance, to get on America Online, we had to pay like a certain subscription fee every month in order to use our own phone lines, which we also had to pay for, in order to dial up and access websites, right? So you would like actually establish a connection with AOL, and then you would get access to all AOL services, which included things like email, chat, as well as web browsing. And when I realized, like, this, I had this revelation where if we had Ethernet, internet instead of dial-up, not only would we not have to pay for 2 separate phone lines so that we would have one phone line open, but also I would no longer have to use America Online in order to actually access the internet. I could do it all from within Internet Explorer, which at the time, Firefox, I think, had just come out. So this was a long fucking time ago, and a lot has changed. A lot has become better and worse in the internet since then. But this was also like at the very beginning of my Linux journey in 2004. So why don't we pay for web browsers? Why, in other words, people already had so many hoops that they had to jump through in order to get online. And I think, especially in the beginning days, because the internet really began as a collaborative effort between universities who were publicly funded already. Like, they're not trying to, or at least back then, there was really no desire to monetize. I mean, perhaps there was, and perhaps this is where a lot of the initial paid computer setups like Apple and Microsoft and Windows and stuff like that kind of came into existence. You already had to pay for Windows back in the day. I don't know if you do now. I think you may or may not have to pay for a license key, but the software itself, anyone can download and install now. And it used to be that you had to have a physical disk. And so you had all of these hoops that you had to jump through already just to get, into a usable state on your machine. Just to be able to connect and access the outside world. So I don't think people necessarily wanted that, but at the same time, this is also the same reason that Microsoft was taken to court over a potential monopoly, because of the fact that Internet Explorer was installed by default on every copy of Windows, and Windows being the biggest operating system at the time for home desktop computers. This led to things like the accusation that because they were giving this internet browser to everybody for free, that they were establishing a monopoly of control. And companies like Mozilla pre-Firefox, because if everyone remembers, Netscape Navigator was one of the only alternative web browsers on Windows, and at the time, actually, it may or may not have been available on Windows, but I used it on the Apple iMac. The OG iMac, the one with the curved, bubbly shell. So that was a long time ago. And, yeah. So why don't we pay for web browsers? Because we already pay for enough fucking things.
What do you mean? They don't make this out of the goodness in their heart? You telling me Google isn't just $1 trillion charity? What?
This is what they're doing as an effort to monetize your time in the browser. This is more of a byproduct or a function of the fact that they've been always free. And so when you offer a free product, you have to find a way to capitalize on that somehow. You have to find a way to feed people back into the system. It's kind of like how Facebook operates, like how they're able to cater advertisements to your very specific wants and needs, because of taking a look at all the things that you've liked over the years and all the different people in your network, and creating very interesting profiles on you as a person in order to figure out the best list of products to show in your feed.
I found online that in 2023, Google paid Apple to be their default search browser in Safari. Guess how much? 20 billion! Jesus Christ! They definitely want you to use Google. So just don't. It will take you 2 minutes. Go do it. Number 3, the third thing I changed. Like many of you, I've been using Google Mail for years and years and years. And apparently up until 2017, that's when they stopped scanning your emails to serve you ads. So now Gmail is a little less creepy, you know, but if you think about it, it is probably the most invasive service that they run. And there are free alternatives out there like Proton. I haven't tried it out. I decided to send this bitch and get my own.
Shout out to Proton, because I actually have the paid version, which comes with a really cool feature that allows you to use email aliases. It allows you to sign up to things on websites using a completely different address than the one that you are normally using. So it effectively acts as a mail relay as well. So whenever you sign up, you can use your alias as a way to hide your real email address, so that if the website gets hacked, your real email is not actually leaked.
Email. I paid a small fee. It was fiddly as hell. But at least people won't think I'm poor and have like Google Schmoogle in my ad domain. Number 4. With me de-Googling lately, I realize it's time for me to de something else. I don't want to say the joke. Anyway, I started working with G Fuel 6 years ago. G Fuel sponsor! Ah! We created the greatest flavor of all time, G Fuel. So many. You get history. Everything is Google. It's crazy. I didn't realize just how deep I've been swept into this ecosystem without realizing it. My goddamn TV is Google. I thought it was a Sony TV. You know, open up, it's like Google TV. How did that happen? I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm supposed to be enamored by the phone, how amazing it is with its incredible hardware and how powerful it is. But if it's so great, then why do I feel like I'm the product? Huh? I hate my phone. Notifications just feel like they're there to suck me in, not to tell me anything useful. All these apps and features. I feel like my attention span is just getting mushed the more I use my phone. I hate it. It's just one big giant distraction device. So I have a Pixel 9, and it is a good phone. And I already own it. So instead of switching it out to like a dumb phone or something like that I know a lot of people do, I wanted to install a custom OS on it. There was a lot of them to choose from, but I opted for Graphene. Mainly because it felt like the biggest point the finger to Google, you know? It's an operating system focused on privacy and security. Apparently so much so that even Edward Cullen uses it. Did I get that right? I would Google it, but I can't. But here's the thing, okay? For some reason, I feel like I'm the crazy one. Huh? What? Why do you want to Google so bad, huh? What do you got to hide, huh? This guy got graphene on his phone. What's up with that? I feel a little judged, okay? But after using graphene, I realize, no, this is how it should be. I'm not the crazy one. There's a few features on graphene that I really like, and these are just to name a few. Especially with security, I really like how they amped it up, but the fact that I close an app on graphene and it closes the app. Crazy. A lot of times on your phone, if you think you've closed an app, but in reality, running in the background and still tracking whatever it is they want to, graphene, nuke that shit. It's gone.
I've heard about Graphene OS as well as some other different alternatives, and I think it's really interesting, but I'm also very hesitant to wipe my primary phone and install a alternative operating system on the off chance that I end up breaking my shit and being left without a phone. And it's really important to have like backups that you can use. So if I end up getting a new phone, it's possible that before I swap everything over, I install something like this and go through, you know, the normal kind of like try out a new technology steps that I would do in order to integrate it before I swap it over to my primary device, once I kind of confirm that everything works. But it's really good to see that Pewdiepie is actually repping it, because I know some people who have rocked it as well, claim that, you know, it's pretty straightforward and they're having a good time with it. You know, I'm just kind of nervous and hesitant about that, which is kind of odd considering how deep I've gotten into certain things, but it's why I didn't, you know, hack my Wii until, you know, I had another game console that I could chill out on in case something happened to it. You know what I mean?
Such a crazy concept, right? I'm the crazy one. Number 2, I control exactly what the app has access to. You can use file or storage scopes, I think it's called. And if I want to give an app access to a certain type of files, I pick which folder. Not the entire device, as it should be. Not some vague little pop-up going like, hey, do you want to give them access to this? No, complete control. Number 3, whenever you install an app on Graphene, it asks you before installing it, hey, do you want to give this app access to your internet? Because a lot of times the answer is, heck no, not happening. I realized I was trying desperately to find a keyboard that has Japanese, Swedish, and English. I really like the Swift kind of typing, you know? I just couldn't find an open source alternative, and I was like, what do I do? And then I realized the alternative is Microsoft or Google, okay? And I realized the keyboard that they offer is connected to the internet. Why? Why? Imagine you bought a physical keyboard and it was secretly connected to the internet, sending big tech everything you type. We're not doing anything weird, just trust us, bro. It's so messed up. On Graphene, I still have the option, and if I want to take a Google app, I can starve it, put it in one of those. I still don't like that I use a Google app, but no, actually it's good. Google is at my mercy for once. Feels good. Another feature that I think is kind of obvious and most people would appreciate, but there was a 4th hidden feature on Graphene that I love. That it is not a feature, but for me it ended up being one. Like I talked about in the beginning, it feels a lot of times when I use a phone, it's such a distraction. There are some apps that you probably have to use. Maybe it's for work or because of friends and you want to connect. Whatever, you're gonna have to use certain apps that you don't really want to use. So I decided to put all those apps, and you can do this as well actually, on a different profile. The good thing about Graphene is that on a different profile, all these apps are contained in that profile. They can't connect to anything else on my phone or run in the background or anything like that. That's what's great about Graphene, and that's why, to me, it felt like a good solution with all the apps that I don't want to use. But what this ended up doing was that, okay, now I need to use this app that I don't like to use. It feels intentional going there. I don't even see these apps when I use my phone on a regular basis. And it made it so that my phone starts feeling like it's serving me again, like an actual useful tool that it supposedly is, right? So yeah, huge fan. I'm so glad I swapped out. It's probably the best thing I did so far. But it gets better, okay? I had to ride this couple weeks, I tell you what. Number, is it 6 or 5? I don't, fuck, I lost count. Anyway, password managers. What do you mean password 123 isn't gonna cut it? I hate password managers. Why? Because they cost 67 pounds.
Okay, good. This is actually one that I have experience with myself. I have tried to make an effort to not use certain services because one of them in particular got fucking hacked. And when that happened, I actually spent the time to take all of my passwords off of that service and migrate to a self-hosted solution. So I use KeepAssXC myself, which is a fucking fantastic service that works on Linux as well as Android, and all I have to do is keep my file synchronized between devices and things are pretty good. I've been free from a paid password manager for a couple of years now, and it's awesome, you know. This is really how everybody should be doing things, and you can even lock things down pretty hard. So I want to see what PewDiePie has to say in this department.
To host a 5 kilobyte size document? I don't think so. There's whole videos of me just doxing myself for being cheap. It's not happening. I'm not paying that. I almost had a heart attack when I found out. I'm paying what? But you need a password manager. That's just the reality of today. I thought I was so smart. I was like, okay, fine. I don't need to do this. I'm running Linux. I downloaded a backup. I made it into an HTML, and then I encrypted it. And then I had an alias, so I unencrypt it when I need to use it, and then quickly encrypt it. Is it unencrypt or decrypt? It doesn't matter. Bada bing, bada boom, I saved myself 67 pounds. If I live for, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years, that's like, I saved myself a lot of money. Multimillionaire is a cheap ass. .mp4, that's what I should call this. But then I realized I need this file on other devices. I need it on my phone and my laptop, and what if I go abroad? And that's when I discovered Glorious SH! Self-hosting. I can just host this on another device. I feel like ever since I did my Linux video, so many comments have been like, just wait until it discovers self-hosting. It's gonna be game over. And yet you were right, okay? I started off on a Raspberry Pi 5. This thing is relatively cheap. It's got Ethernet, it runs on low power, and it's powerful for its size. Can do more than enough for what I wanted to do. I found an open source alternative, which is Vault Warden. You can host your own password manager, basically. The problem was, I have no clue what the heck I'm doing. What is a reverse proxy? What do you mean I can't just put my IP address in my browser and be done with it? The Vault Warden is so secure that it wouldn't let me connect to it unless I set it up properly. Every time I thought I did it, I kept seeing the spinny circle, and I saw that circle for 2 goddamn days. But once it finally worked, magic. I have done it. I had saved myself 67 pounds. Tears running down my eyes. It was beautiful. My first successful self-host. My God. No more subscriptions. No more syncing drama. Just my own secure vault. It felt like I was finally breaking out of the matrix for real. And the thing is, once you start understanding how this works, it's really not that bad. If anything, it became super fun because with compatibility layers like Docker, you can so easily just pick and choose what open source software you want to download, keep trying out different ones. The world is your oyster. Just
Wow, shoutouts to Docker. Holy fuck. I'm really gonna have to use it more, maybe, since he's talking about it like that. The reason that he's kind of repping it is because Docker is a tool that allows you to make it easier for other people to run your stuff without having to install all of the same dependencies that might be necessary in order to run your software. So one of the big problems amongst software development in general is dependency management. It's one of the reasons that Go language exists. It's one of the reasons that iOS began to bake static binaries into their apps as the default. It's one of the reasons that static linking is seen as a superior security solution to the problem of, like, not everyone's going to have the same libraries installed on their system, and the way that they have them installed might not be compatible with the way that your software calls that library. So enter Docker, where it acts as a kind of mini container for all of the different services and dependencies that a tool might need to use. So you can effectively think of it like a micro virtual machine that you can install whatever you want onto and keep it as clean and stripped down as possible. And all of that runs inside of your own operating system underneath the hood. So you could, for instance, have an Ubuntu Docker that runs some Python script that, like, you know, has a bunch of things installed that you don't have installed on your system. But so long as you have Docker, you can just run that Docker container and not have to ever touch any of those other things. Sure, it might slow down the speed at which your software runs, but it makes distribution so much easier.
just pluck them from the trees and everything just works. So I needed a note-taking app. I found one called Yoplin. That's how you say that, Yoplin. It had a desktop app and a phone app, which is exactly what I wanted. But when I installed Yoplin, this is where things got weird. Do not judge me here, okay? This is...
I've never heard of Yoplin. Joplin.
So I needed a note-taking app. I found one called Yoplin. That's how you say that, Yoplin. It had a desktop app and a phone app, which is exactly what I wanted. But when I installed Yoplin, this is where things got weird. Do not judge me here, okay? This is... You can probably relate to this, actually. Have you ever been so lazy that you try and find another alternative, but then that leads you on a road that was 10 times more complicated than just not being lazy? The image that I was trying to install on my Pi was not compatible. It was 86 by 64. This is ARM-based structure. It doesn't matter. Not compatible. I can just find another one. But I thought, hey, why don't I just quickly install this on something that does run 86 by 64? And I look around and I'm like, oh. Well. My Steam Deck. runs 86 by 60.
PewDiePie is running a laptop or a CPU that's not x86-64. Wow. ARM's really come a long way, huh?
So you may be asking, Felix, did you use your portable handheld gaming console to host your note-taking app? Yes, but it gets worse actually.
All right, he's really rocking the hardcore Linux if he's doing this kind of stuff. I'm proud of PewDiePie. He's really come a long way to be able to self-host a note-taking app server on his Steam Deck. That's pretty good. I like that.
Steam runs Linux. Beautiful. It actually runs Arch, which is the distro I use on my desktop.
PewDiePie runs Arch. Holy shit. That's fucking based. I'm not about to undo my entire setup to run Arch, but I might consider it in the future. Maybe.
Match made in heaven. But I thought to myself, well, it's filled with all this like Steam bloat. I should probably uninstall Arch so I can then install Arch. I don't know what's wrong with me.
This motherfucker uninstalled the default Arch install on his Steam so that he could do a clean install from scratch. That just seems like a lot of excessive effort that was unnecessary. Like, I doubt it was so bloated before that you needed to do that. I'm just saying. You probably could have left everything on there as it is, homie.
Don't ask. And I did this, of course, just so I wouldn't have to find another image of my note-taking app. But anyway, it works. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Now, I got my
Fucking amen.
notes app running beautifully. Number 7 or 8. It was time to say goodbye, Google Drive. Goodbye, Jotaro. $20 for 100 gig? I don't think so. I'm not gonna pay you to hold my data hostage forever. Not happening. What if I live for another 600 years? Think about how much money that's gonna be to Google. No more subscriptions. Redundant subscriptions. Instead of Google Drive, I set up File Browser. The thing that bothers me about all these free online storages that gives you a certain amount at least is that, first of all, it's not safe. Second of all, I don't know what they're doing with that. Thirdly, I hate how it's used. I don't know if you can relate to this. Maybe it's just like a me problem, but let's say I've gone outside, I've touched grass, I've taken all these photos and videos, and then I sit down in front of my computer, and then all of a sudden internet goes down, and I'm like, what happened? And then it's like, oh yeah, my Google Drive decided to back up every single photo and video I've ever taken. And it's like, I don't want that. I want certain images. Let me pick those first. And I don't want you to suck up my entire bandwidth. With File Browser, I can throttle the speed and I can do it when I want to, which files I want to. I went a little nerdy and overboard, a surprise. And I wrote a bunch of aliases and shell functions so that I can define push or pull to download or upload, which device, my phone, laptop, desktop, deck, and which subfolder. And I do all this with glorious SSH. It actually solved another problem for me, which is always sharing files between my phone and my desktop. I never know how to do it. Apparently, I didn't know this. I feel like everyone is tuning out because I'm talking about SSH again. To do it solved another problem for me. And which subfolder. And I do all this with glorious SSH. It actually desktop deck and which subfolder. And I do all this with glorious SSH phone that I can overboard. A surprise. And I wrote a bunch of aliases and with images back up an internet grass. I've taken to this. They're doing with that certain amount of browser. The thing that bothers me, redundant subscriptions. Instead of Google Drive, I set up File Browser.
File Browser. Okay, so he's self-hosting his backup solution like this. So mine isn't so clean because I do it all from the command line, but I use ZFS as my primary file system now because of how easy it makes backups. And like all I have to do is take a snapshot of my system and then push that snapshot to my externals, and it's pretty great. Like I can pretty much run it daily if I want to. I pretty much make snapshots like once a week or something like that. I can set it up on a fucking cron job if I want to, and it's very rare that I actually need to pull anything from it because it's literally just a live snapshot of my system. And I can even stack the snapshots in a way where if, like, say I know my system's in a good state right now and I want to push that snapshot, and then I want to do a bunch of experimental shit and then push that snapshot, and then I realize, oh fuck, that snapshot's bad, I need to go back. You can actually roll back previous snapshots in a way where you can recover any part of your file system, and you can even segment things in a way where things are isolated from other things so that you can restore, like, say, the state of your videos folder to a point that it previously was a long time ago, while not leaving or touching any other part of your system. So it's kind of interesting to hear that he's doing all of this just for, like, visual, especially if he's, like, comfortable with stuff like terminal and SSH at this point. I'm not tuning out. I don't know about y'all.
Doesn't matter, okay? It's cool. Just trust me, it's cool. Number 9. AI. We have to talk about AI. I don't know about you, but I don't like using AI. It feels like I'm kneeling directly to the tech overlords. And not to mention the goddamn subscription fees. I feel like I'm spoon-feeding the machine that has stolen all my data, more of my data. Here you go. Nice and fat. Here you go. Not happening. But I got curious and, you know, I built my own computer not long ago and I spent a lot of money on it. Why don't I just see if I can run it myself? It's a beast. So I set up a local language model called Mixtral. Emphasis on local, which means it runs on my computer completely offline. It's beautiful. Now I can search whatever I want. And I can ask it dumb questions like, why is my left toe bigger than my right toe? And no one knows about it. Not Google, not AI overlords, not even you. Step 10. How many steps are there? And we have so much left. PDFs, Google Docs, calendar, contacts. I was honestly getting a little tired at this point to try and find an alternative to all of these, but that's when I discovered Nextcloud. It's an open source self-host beast, and it does all of this for you. Maybe there are better singular alternatives, but the fact that I can get all of this baked in one was exactly what I needed, and just one quick install and it was done. I was completely out of Google and it felt amazing. Finally, I'm free. From here on is when I needed to tighten things up a little bit. I actually bought a domain. I know, I paid a subscription fee. But it's worth it. If you're self-hosting, it's actually worth it because you can get a domain for $5 a year. It means I can get better security features and I can put all these services in subdomains. So like docs.mysubdomain.com and password.mysubdomain.com, like all these different things I made, I can access easily. I don't have to type my IP address for each one. And I started to tighten down the security as well, especially because I was looking online. I'm like, I'm getting a lot of bots that are pinging me. I don't like this. Everything is locked in with the password already, but I added another layer of zero trust, so you can't access anything unless you have another login. I locked in my IP address with Tailscale. Beautiful Tailscale. I could make a whole video. I had a fail to ban. It was definitely worth spending some time locking things down.
Shoutouts to fail to ban. Oh my fucking god. That's a thing that I have in a script that I wrote based off of a blog post I read. So there's this blog post from like 2011 era called My First 5 Minutes on a Server. And then there was an update to this post called My First 10 Minutes on a Server. And I thought the contents of that blog were so good that I turned it into a shell script, and it's available on my GitHub at first10min at Mike Desu on GitHub. So shout outs to fucking fail to ban. That shit's legit. It's also really fun to set it up so that it emails you login attempts, because you can actually see all of the people who are trying to brute force their way into your server. And it's really fun to just take a look at the IP addresses and the login attempts themselves to see what people are actually trying to do. This is a great way to set up honeypots. This is a great way to set up things that you need to lock down in general and prevent people from being able to like spam attempts into logging into your server. Because one good way to like actually perform DDoS is to take advantage of the fact that there are unless you have things set up like with SSH keys and things like that, when the SSH manager goes to like actually check your username versus your password, there might be ways to like short circuit or like abuse the logic in a way that causes it to use more CPU time as a result of that attempt, and then can, you know, like repeat that attempt over and over, and then you are just burning CPU time for no reason. Whereas, you know, you could just block that IP address at a certain level whenever it attempts to like send a packet to your server by using something like fail to ban, so that like after 3 attempts, if you fail to log in, you're fucked. Fucking awesome that he's using that.
Down. And I think I found a good balance of it being secure, but also not like a huge hassle every time you want to access either. Now, swapping out all these Google services, there's one that I just can't escape. And I don't mean YouTube. There's one that sucked the most to get rid of, and that was actually Google Maps. Because Google tracks you so well, it is so good at predicting traffic. And since I drive a lot in Tokyo, I really rely on that to get to places on time. You can't be late in Japan, it's like a death sentence. The first time I used my open source alternative, I ended up 30 minutes late. And that's when I realized, hey, maybe Big Brother tracking everything isn't so bad. Maybe surveillance has its perks. But I stuck to my de-googling, and the best alternative I found was just using my car's GPS. It has all this Japanese services built in anyway. I ended up using my Pi to replace my Google TV, and I'm running Kodi on that.
So it's really sad to hear that the open source alternatives didn't work out for him. I've never really made a strong effort to switch. I briefly have looked at OpenStreetMaps, but when I was in downtown San Francisco, you know, for job interviews and stuff, and I found myself in, you know, like Haight-Ashbury, and I had to figure out how to fucking get home to my hotel so I can make my flight in like 6 hours. Google Maps was a huge boss tier move, because, you know, I was able to just locate a bus that I needed to get on and follow like a certain walking pattern. It like I wouldn't have been, you know, because I didn't have a car when I was in San Francisco. Like, thinking about Google Maps and map applications, you know, from different perspectives. There's the pedestrian perspective, there's the driver perspective, there's you know, airport information built in. Like, it helps you travel internationally. As he said, he's in fucking Tokyo, which I'm a little bit jealous about, but yeah. Anything that might get in the way of you being able to very quickly find like which subway station you need to get to, or which train line is going from where to where. Having access to all that stuff is very critical, and it's, as I said, with like the benefit of like building user profile in the beginning of this video, it's kind of like, oh yeah, well, maybe there are certain things that, you know, like we benefit from in this data collection kind of setup, where, you know, like if we just opt in and allow it to build a profile on us, we might end up accomplishing certain things faster or more easily. And at a certain point, the trade-off ends up being worth it. So this is also a very important part of the privacy discussion that I think is often not talked about, because there are certain assumptions that are made about life changes that some people are just not in a position to be able to make in order to do a complete and full switch.
I haven't really fully set it up yet, so not much to say about it. And you may remember I'm doing all of this on my Steam Deck.
You set Kodi up on the Steam Deck? That's cool. I have dabbled a little bit into Kodi and have not fully gotten it to a usable state, but it is out there, and you know, it's the kind of thing that you can like put onto like an Amazon Fire Stick and definitely remove yourself from certain ecosystems. That said, though, if you're gonna be doing certain things, you might want to definitely consider that VPN solution, which he has not talked about yet.
I added an extension so I can plug it into Ethernet. That way it runs on less power. It runs completely headless, and I can monitor all of it on my safe network.
He's got a fucking is that H top or is that B top? Is that H top or B top? I'm not 100% sure. It looks a lot like B top, just with like a different theme. I like how he blurs out his IP address. He's not using a VPN.
Network system that I have. But then I thought it'd be kind of cool to use the display so I can use that for monitoring. I ran Tmux and B-top on it, and it looks so cool.
So it was B-top. Based.
You know, this all started because I wanted to de-Google and try what that was like. And by the end of it, my Steam Deck looks like it's a detonator for a bomb or something like that. And before you ask, yes, I can still game on it, all right? It runs 2% of my CPU. It's like this weird home lab abomination at this point, but I love it. I love looking at it. I got it sitting next on my desk. It's just a vibe, man. Every time I see it, I'm happy. Another fact that I like using my Steam Deck is the fact that I can just use whatever I have around me. People have these like super sick home lab setups, which are awesome, I get it, but my point with this is that if you wanted to de-Google, you can use whatever you have at your disposal. It shouldn't cost you any extra money. Like, I'm not gonna pretend that Steam Deck is the ultimate self-host device. You're probably better off using a Pi, but maybe you have some device laying around at home that you can run Linux on. Bring it back to life, you know? Instead of throwing it away, and I hate to be that guy, but it's better for the environment. Yes, it's a lot of tinkering, but you learn a lot, and by the end of it, it's done. Like, I don't have...
I had this revelation many years ago about the landscape of the computer graveyard. There was a guy that I hung out with in North Florida who ran his own PC repair shop. And this guy had countless boards, countless CPUs, countless little capacitors and hardware components scattered all across his shop. And people would come in and ask if they could leave their machine with him and set it up so they could pick it up later. And I watched him work on actually physically removing stuff from boards and then soldering new parts onto them, and then go through the process of like taking something like that and then putting Windows back on it and booting it up and everything. And it was a really interesting thing to watch because I'm not a hardware person on that level. I got shaky hands. I've never soldered anything in my life. I think that would be a fun thing to try and do in the right environment with the right safety equipment and all of that good stuff. But it's just a completely different universe that I'm used to operating in. And the point being that there are all of these old machines. I've even got several old machines here that I need to take the time and actually put back together again, because they're just sitting around not being used, and I could be using them for something. One of them's got a 3 terabyte hard drive on it. Another's got 256 gig SSD, and they're both perfectly fine machines. One of them I used as a media machine to like actually watch stuff on and have it completely separated from my day-to-day machine. Right now, my beast machine is doing all of the work. You know, I'm watching everything. I'm doing code on it. Like, you know, I've got it hooked into my big screen as well as a dual screen, so it's rocking 3 monitors right now. And it literally does it all. But there is something to be said about segmentation of purpose. There's also something to be said about saving the environment too. We live in a culture of excess and waste, and always replace something by buying something new and never make the attempt to actually save old things or to make them better or to restore them or repair them or maintain them. And I think this is a culture that over time gets more and more lost the more that like people don't push back against the system. And if there is one system to push back against, I think this is it.
Don't have to touch it. Google's mantra is don't be evil, but I still think they have a lot to do to qualify for that title. I feel like on your phone you have all these settings with privacy qualify. Google's mantra is don't be evil.
Don't be evil, right? This is actually the origin of the name Evil Dojo. Around the time that Google dropped this moniker or was having a discussion about it, or it was being talked about in the media in the context of Edward Snowden and the NSA revelations and NSA's relationship to Google in context of data gathering, as well as Facebook, I have to remind everybody.
Swallow the demon!
Don't be evil. Just train like you are.
Be evil, but I still think they have a lot to do to qualify for that title. I feel like on your phone you have all these settings with privacy and give permissions and all these things that they ask you. But it kind of feels like one of those toys that Björn has that it's just like a bunch of buttons that doesn't actually do anything. Unless you go all the way with privacy, it doesn't mean anything. Don't call it privacy. And for me, it's not even necessarily about Google. I think it's more about big tech in general. I hate where software is going. Unnecessary subscriptions, ads, locking, updates changing the entire UI because you're more prone somehow to get more locked in. With YouTube, you know, it's been constantly changing for years and years and years just because they figured this is the best way to suck you in. If I host my own apps, there's none of that. So now I got my own home lab abomination and I love it. I'm finally free from the tech overlords. It was 100% worth it. And look, bro, I made you one too.
What do you bet that PewDiePie still uses Amazon? Jeff Bezos is getting married. He's saying that he got free of Google and the big tech overlords. That's fine. Does he still use Amazon? I still use Amazon. I can't fucking stop. I had some shit I had to buy fucking today. My car battery's dead. I'm gonna have to take time to fucking charge it. I can't leave the house at the moment. I mean, I could walk outside, but it's a very hot day and it's a long ass walk to the nearest store. So, I unfortunately still had to do that shit. Maybe one day in the future.
You've earned it. Here you go, bro.
As much of a tinfoil hatter as I can be at times, I've never actually wore a tinfoil hat. It's definitely something to consider, but there you go. If you like this shit, you like me talking about Linux, you like watching me code while I watch videos, I got a game coming out that I'm in the progress of. The code base is an absolute shit show right now, but like what you see there.